Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of New Hebrides colony, watching the twin suns set over endless fields of golden wheat. The beauty of the moment felt hollow. In 3 days, the Korvax would come to take the children. 200 years had passed since the Korvax Empire arrived at Earth. They came in ships that blocked out the sun, with weapons that could crack planets like eggs. Humanity had no choice but to surrender. The Korvax called it integration. Everyone else knew what it really was. Slavery with polite words. The Empire ruled 47 star systems. Humans now lived on 12 different worlds, growing food, mining minerals, and building machines for their masters. Every colony had quotas to meet. Every human had a job assigned by the Korvax. Freedom was something grandparents told stories about. Sarah remembered those stories. Her grandmother had been alive when Earth was still free. She talked about elections, about choosing your own path, about saying no when someone tried to hurt you. Sarah was 10 when her grandmother died. The old woman's last words stayed with her. Never forget what we were. Now Sarah was 42, commander of the Colonial Defense Force. It was a joke title. The Defense Force had no real weapons. They had stun batons and emergency response vehicles. The Korvax made sure no human colony could defend itself against anything bigger than a riot. The message had arrived 5 days ago from the Korvax Central Authority. All human colonies would implement the decimation protocol immediately. 10% of all children between ages 5 and 12 would be taken for genetic improvement programs. The children would help create better humans, the message said. They would be returned when the program was complete. Nobody believed that last part. Sarah walked through the colony's main street. New Hebrides was home to 50,000 people. They had built a good life here despite everything. Gardens grew between the buildings. Children played in the parks. People smiled and helped each other. It looked peaceful, but today the streets were quiet. Parents held their children close. Every door was locked. The lottery results had been posted yesterday. 500 names. 500 children who would be taken when the Korvax ship arrived. Her comm device buzzed. It was Marcus Rivera, the colony's elected governor. "Chen, we need to talk. My office. Now." She found Rivera with a dozen other community leaders crowded into his small workspace. Maps covered the walls. Population charts. Resource distributions. Everything a governor needed to manage a colony. But today, everyone was looking at a different kind of document. "The Council of Human Worlds met last night," Rivera said. His voice was tired. "All 12 colonies participated. We had to decide how to respond to the decimation protocol." Sarah felt her heart sink. "We're going to comply." Most colonies voted to comply, yes. Rivera looked around at the others. "They're afraid. The Korvax have destroyed colonies before for disobedience. Everyone remembers the Azure massacre. 20 years ago, the mining colony on Azure 7 had refused to meet its quotas. The Korvax response was simple. They destroyed the entire colony from orbit. 30,000 people died in less than an hour. After that, no colony dared to resist. "But some of us voted differently," said Maria Santos, the head of the Agricultural Division. She was a small woman with iron in her spine. New Hebrides voted no. So did Titan Station and 3 other colonies. Sarah looked at Rivera in shock. "We refused?" "We voted to resist." Rivera pulled up a screen showing the lottery results. "I'm not handing over 500 children to those monsters. I don't care what they promise. We know what happens to humans in their genetic programs. They don't come back. They'll destroy us," someone said quietly. "Maybe." Rivera's jaw was set. "But I'm done bowing. I'm done pretending that compliance will keep us safe. Every year they take more. Every year they push harder. When does it stop?" Sarah thought about her niece, Emma. 8 years old with her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn smile. Emma's name was on the lottery list. Sarah had been awake for 2 nights straight trying to figure out how to save her. "What's the plan?" Sarah asked. Rivera smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You remember those old storage facilities in the asteroid belt? The ones we supposedly abandoned 15 years ago?" Sarah nodded slowly. Every colony had similar facilities. Places where equipment was stored for future expansion. Except New Hebrides had never really abandoned theirs. "We've been preparing for this day," Rivera said. "Not just us. Humans across all 12 worlds have been preparing. We knew the Korvax would push too far eventually. We knew there would come a day when we had to say enough. He pulled up another screen. Sarah's breath caught. Ship schematics, weapons designs, communication networks, all hidden, all illegal, all built slowly over decades. How long have you been planning this? She whispered. Since Azure. Maria stepped forward. We couldn't save them, but we swore we'd be ready next time. Every colony has been building in secret. Weapons hidden in asteroid mines, ships assembled in dark space where the Korvax don't patrol, communication systems they can't monitor. We've been waiting for the moment when humanity would stand together and say no. Sarah looked at the plans. They were extensive, detailed, and completely insane. This is suicide. Maybe, Rivera agreed. But I'd rather die fighting than live on my knees. And I think most humans feel the same way. The vote wasn't even close, Sarah. 90% of New Hebrides wants to resist. We're done being slaves. The comm system crackled. A young man's voice came through, urgent and excited. Governor Rivera? We're receiving signals from Titan Station and New Berlin Colony. They're mobilizing their defense networks. And sir, we're picking up broadcasts on the old emergency frequencies. It's happening across all the colonies. Rivera and Sarah locked eyes. She saw fear there, yes, but also hope. After 200 years, humanity was choosing to fight back. Give the order, Sarah said quietly. Activate our defense network. Rivera nodded and spoke into the comm. All stations, this is Governor Rivera. Execute Protocol Freedom. I repeat, execute Protocol Freedom. And broadcast this message on all frequencies where humans can hear it. Enough is enough. The words spread like fire. Across New Hebrides, hidden weapon systems came online. In the asteroid belt, concealed ships powered up their engines. On 11 other worlds, millions of humans heard the message and made their choice. Sarah went to find Emma. She found her niece playing in the small garden behind her house. Pretending dolls were having a tea party. Emma looked up and smiled, not knowing her name was on a list, not knowing she was supposed to be taken away. Aunt Sarah, want to play? Sarah knelt down and hugged her niece tightly. Emma, things are going to change soon. There might be scary noises and bright lights in the sky, but I promise you, nobody is going to take you away. Not ever. Are the bad aliens coming? Children always understood more than adults thought they did. Yes, baby. They're coming. But this time, we're going to fight back. Emma nodded seriously like this made perfect sense to her 8-year-old mind. Good. Mom says we should always fight bullies. Sarah smiled through tears. Your mom is very smart. That night, Sarah stood on the colony walls and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the Korvax were preparing to collect their tribute of children. They thought humans were weak. They thought 200 years of slavery had broken humanity's spirit. They were about to learn how wrong they were. When you push humans too far, when you threaten their children, when you take away everything they love, they don't break. They break you instead. The Korvax ship arrived exactly on schedule. It descended through New Hebrides' atmosphere like a dark moon, blocking out the morning sun. Overseer Calthex stood on the command bridge, confident and bored. He had collected tributes from a dozen worlds this month. Humans were always the easiest. They whimpered and begged, but they always complied. Transmit the collection order, Calthex commanded. Standard procedure. We'll be gone within the hour. Down on New Hebrides, the entire colony had gathered in the main square. Sarah stood at the front with Governor Rivera and the other leaders. Behind them, 500 families held their children close. Nobody was crying. Nobody was begging. They all stood together in silence, waiting. The Korvax transmission came through on every screen and speaker. Calthex's face appeared, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence like he was already thinking about his next assignment. Humans of New Hebrides colony, you will now deliver the designated children to the collection zone. You have 30 minutes to comply. Resistance will result in orbital correction. Orbital correction. Such clean words for burning a city from space. Rivera stepped forward and spoke clearly into the broadcast system. Overseer Calthex, this is Governor Marcus Rivera of New Hebrides colony. We will not comply with your order. These children are staying with their families. Leave our world in peace, Calthex's 3 eyes widened. In his 200 years of service, no human had ever said no. Governor, you do not understand the consequences of defiance. I have the authority to destroy your colony. Then you'll have to destroy all of us, Rivera said. We're done being afraid. Calthex laughed. It was a harsh clicking sound. Humans are so dramatic, very well. I will give you an example of what disobedience costs. Charging orbital weapons. Your colony will cease to exist in 5 minutes. Sarah raised her hand. Across the colony, response teams moved to their positions. This was the moment. Either humanity's secret preparations would work, or they would all die together. All stations, Sarah said quietly into her comm. Weapons free. The Korvax ship's weapons powered up, energy building for the killing strike. Caltex watched the countdown with satisfaction. These primitives needed to learn their place. Then the sky exploded with light. Missiles erupted from hidden silos in the farmlands. Railgun platforms emerged from false grain storage towers. Defense satellites that the Korvax thought were broken communication relays suddenly came online, targeting systems locking onto the Korvax vessel. In the asteroid belt above, concealed human warships activated their engines and began their attack run. Alarms screamed on the Korvax bridge. Overseer! We're under attack! Multiple weapon systems, all human origin. Where did they get these weapons? Caltech stared in shock as his ship's shields flared under the assault. This is impossible. Humans don't have military capability, but they did. For 60 years, in secret mines and hidden factories humanity had been building. They had studied captured Korvax technology. They had traded information between colonies through coded messages in food shipment manifests and mining reports. Every colony had contributed. Every human settlement had hidden weapons and waited for the day they could fight back. The Korvax ship tried to return fire, but the orbital defense grid had already damaged its main weapons. Calthex's vessel began an emergency ascent, trying to escape to space where his superior technology would give him an advantage. He never made it. 3 human warships intercepted him at the edge of the atmosphere. They were crude vessels compared to Korvax engineering, but they were there, and they were armed, and they were angry. The battle lasted 7 minutes. The Korvax ship's superior shields held against the first barrage, then the second, but the human ships kept coming, firing everything they had. When their missiles ran out, they used railguns. When their railguns overheated, they rammed. The Korvax vessel broke apart in the upper atmosphere, pieces burning like falling stars. Sarah watched it fall and felt no joy. Only grim satisfaction. That's one ship. They'll send more. She was right. Across human space, the same scene was playing out. On Titan Station, workers had seized the mining lasers and turned them against the Korvax tribute ship. On New Berlin, the entire colony's fusion reactors had been weaponized, creating an electromagnetic pulse that disabled the Korvax vessel before it could fire. On Earth itself, humanity's oldest and largest colony, defense forces had activated weapon systems hidden in the moon's underground cities. And on every world, the message was the same. Enough is enough. Admiral Marcus Rivera II, no relation to the new Hebrides governor, but sharing his determination, commanded the hidden human fleet from a converted asteroid base deep in the Aurelia Nebula. He was 70 years old, had fought in the colonial defense forces before they were disarmed, and had spent the last 40 years preparing for this moment. Status report, he barked. Sir, we're receiving confirmation from all 12 colony groups. Resistance has begun simultaneously across human space. Korvax tribute ships at 7 colonies have been destroyed or disabled. 3 colonies are still in combat. Earth's forces have successfully defended the homeworld. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. Then we move to Phase 2. Launch the fleet. We take the fight to them before they can organize a response. Sir, fleet captains are requesting confirmation. We're really doing this? We're attacking Korvax military installations? Captain, what did you think we've been building ships for? Target the Korvax forward operating bases in the Kepler system. If we hit them now while they're confused, we can destroy their ability to project force into human space. The hidden fleet emerged from the nebula. 53 warships, each one built in secret over decades. They weren't as advanced as Korvax vessels, but humans had learned to be clever. They didn't fight fair. They fought to win. On the Korvax homeworld of Korvaxis Prime, High Commander Zelthax received the reports with disbelief. Repeat that slowly. Sir, human colonies across all 12 worlds have initiated armed rebellion. They have military assets we were unaware of. 7 tribute ships have been lost. They're attacking our forward bases. Zelthax's skin changed color, cycling through patterns that indicated extreme stress. In 3,000 years of Korvax expansion, this had never happened. Species either surrendered immediately or were destroyed. They didn't wait 200 years and then suddenly reveal hidden military forces. How many ships do they have? Intelligence estimates between 50 and 70 military vessels, mostly converted civilian craft with improvised weapons. But sir, they're fighting on all 12 worlds simultaneously. They're coordinated. This wasn't spontaneous. They planned this. Zelthax felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: uncertainty. What are their demands? They're not making demands, sir. They're declaring independence. All 12 colonies have broadcast the same message. They want complete freedom from the Empire. That's unacceptable. Deploy the subjugation fleets. This rebellion will be crushed within a week. But it wasn't crushed in a week. It wasn't crushed at all. The Battle of Aurelia Nebula happened 3 days later. The Korvax sent a fleet of 20 warships to destroy the human base in the nebula. They outnumbered the human defenders 10-1. They had superior weapons, shields, and engines. By every military calculation, they should have won easily. They didn't account for human desperation or creativity. Admiral Rivera hid his ships deep in the nebula's radiation zones, where Korvax sensors couldn't penetrate. When the enemy fleet entered the nebula searching for them, the humans attacked from multiple directions at once. They used the radiation to disable Korvax targeting systems. They fired missiles and then retreated into radiation clouds. They set traps with proximity mines and gas pockets. The Korvax fleet flailed blindly, their superior technology useless in the chaotic environment. Human ships darted in and out like wolves harrying a bear, never fighting fair, always retreating before the Korvax could land a solid hit. When the battle ended, 7 Korvax warships were destroyed and the rest retreated. The humans lost 12 ships, but they had won. They had fought the Empire's military forces and won. News of the victory spread through human space like wildfire. The message was clear. The Korvax could be beaten. Governor Rivera stood in the rebuilt main square of New Hebrides watching the celebration. His people danced and sang. Children played without fear for the first time in their lives. Emma ran past laughing with her friends. Her name crossed off a list that no longer mattered. Sarah stood beside him, exhausted but smiling. They'll send more ships. I know, this isn't over. They won't let us go without a real fight. I know that too. Rivera looked up at the stars. But we've shown them something important today. We've shown them that humans don't stay down. Push us hard enough and we push back harder. Above them, in the darkness of space, more human ships were preparing for battle. The Korvax Empire was mobilizing its full military might. The real war was just beginning, but humanity had taken the first step. They had said no. They had fought back, and they had won their first victory. It was enough to give them hope. And hope once kindled is very hard to extinguish. High Commander Zelthax stood before the Grand Assembly on Korvax's prime, his skin patterns showing controlled rage. Around him, the ruling council of the Empire waited for his report. These were beings who had conquered 47 star systems. They did not understand the meaning of military defeat. The human rebellion has been active for 6 weeks, Zelthax reported. We have lost 37 military vessels, 2 forward operating bases, and our ability to collect tributes from any human colony. Our attempts to reassert control have failed. Council member Tharvix clicked his mandibles in disgust. Failed against humans? They are barely capable of spaceflight. How have we failed? Because we underestimated them. Zelthax brought up tactical displays. Humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They hide weapons in civilian structures. They use asteroids as kinetic missiles. They hack our communications and learn our tactics. Every time we develop a counter-strategy, they adapt. And most troubling, they refuse to surrender even when victory is impossible. Another council member spoke. Then we destroy their colonies. Make examples like we did with Azure. Show them the cost of defiance. We tried that. Zelthax's skin darkened with frustration. We sent a battle group to destroy the New Hebrides colony 3 weeks ago. 12 warships. The humans evacuated their civilians underground and turned their entire industrial complex into a weapons platform. They lost the surface cities but destroyed 8 of our ships. The colony still stands. The humans are still fighting. The council chamber fell silent. 8 warships lost taking a farming colony. It was unthinkable. What do you recommend? Tharvix asked quietly. Total war. Deploy the dreadnoughts. The ancient weapons we used to pacify the Vrex home system. We must show the humans that continued resistance means extinction. And if that doesn't work? Selthax didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. On New Hebrides, Sarah coordinated the defense of the underground shelters. The Korvax bombardment had destroyed the surface, turning farms and cities into craters. But the people were alive. 3,000 casualties from a colony of 50,000. It was a miracle, made possible by decades of preparation. She walked through the shelter corridors, checking on families. Emma was helping distribute food rations, her young face serious with concentration. Children adapted faster than adults. To Emma, this was just the new normal. Commander Chen, a young soldier, ran up, out of breath. "We're receiving a fleet-wide transmission from Admiral Rivera. All colonies, all ships. He says everyone needs to hear this." Sarah found a screen and pulled up the broadcast. The Admiral's weathered face appeared, and behind him she could see the bridge of his flagship. He looked tired but determined. "To all humans fighting for freedom," the Admiral began. "6 weeks ago we said enough. We refused to give up our children. We refused to live as slaves. Today I'm here to tell you something important. We're winning." Sarah felt her breath catch. Winning. They were barely surviving. "The Korvax have lost more ships in 6 weeks than they've lost in 6 centuries, the Admiral continued. "They control 47 star systems, but they can't control us. Every day more of their resources go toward fighting humans. Every day we cost them more than we're worth. And every day other species in the Empire are watching and learning." He paused, letting that sink in. "The Korvax thought we were weak because we surrendered 200 years ago. But surrender isn't weakness. We surrendered because we were facing extinction. We had no weapons, no defenses, no choice. But we survived. We learned. We prepared. And now we're teaching the Empire something they've forgotten. Some species can't be conquered. They can only be destroyed. And destroying us will cost them everything. On 17 different worlds, in underground bunkers and hidden bases and ships scattered across space, humans watched and felt something they hadn't felt in 2 centuries. Pride. They're going to send their dreadnoughts, the Admiral said. Ancient weapons that can crack moons. They'll target Earth itself because they know that's our heart. So this is what we're going to do. Every human ship, every defense platform, every weapon we have will converge on Earth. We will defend our home. And if they want to destroy it, they'll have to go through all of us first." Sarah looked at Emma, who was listening with wide eyes. "Are we going to Earth?" The girl asked. "Some of us are. I have to go fight. But you're going to stay here with your mom where it's safe." "But you'll come back?" Sarah knelt down and hugged her niece. "I'm going to do everything I can to come back. Because we're fighting so you can grow up free, so you never have to be afraid of anyone taking you away." 2 weeks later, Sarah stood on the bridge of a converted cargo ship designated the Defiant Spirit. Around Earth, the human fleet assembled. 217 ships. Some were military vessels built in secret. Others were cargo haulers with weapons welded to their hulls. Some were mining ships equipped with industrial drills that could punch through armor. None of them were pretty. All of them were ready to fight. The Korvax dreadnoughts arrived like prophecies of doom. 4 massive vessels, each one 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that had destroyed civilizations. They were accompanied by 70 escort ships. The Korvax weren't taking chances anymore. Selthax commanded the fleet from the lead dreadnought. He had argued against this attack. Destroying Earth would make humans martyrs. It would inspire other species to resist. But the Grand Assembly wanted an example made. They wanted to remind the galaxy what happened to those who defied the Empire. "All ships advance," Selthax ordered. "Target their command vessels first. Make this quick." The human fleet didn't retreat. They didn't try to negotiate. They attacked immediately. What followed was chaos. Human ships swarmed the Korvax fleet like angry bees, too many targets to track. Moving too erratically to hit easily, they focused fire on single targets, destroying escort ships one by one. When their weapons ran out, they rammed. When their ships were crippled, pilots evacuated in escape pods and detonated their vessels near Korvax ships, using them as bombs. Sarah's ship took hits that would have destroyed most vessels. The hull breached in 3 places. Life support failed. But the crew kept fighting, wearing emergency suits, firing weapons manually when the automated systems died. They destroyed 1 escort ship and crippled another before the Defiant Spirit finally lost power. "Abandon ship," Sarah ordered. "Everyone to the escape pods." As her crew evacuated, Sarah stayed on the bridge, monitoring the battle. The human fleet was losing. They were being destroyed ship by ship. But they were making the Korvax pay for every meter of space. And they were buying time. Time for Earth's ground defenses to activate. Time for the secret weapon humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. On Earth's moon, in cities buried kilometers below the surface, scientists activated the quantum disruption array. It was experimental technology, reverse-engineered from Korvax equipment captured in earlier battles. Nobody was entirely sure it would work, but it was their last hope. The array sent out a pulse of quantum energy that destabilized the exotic matter cores powering the Korvax ships. For a crucial few seconds, every Korvax vessel in range lost power. In those seconds, the human fleet struck. Missiles launched from Earth's surface. Orbital platforms that had been playing dead suddenly activated. Mining ships from the asteroid belt, hidden until now, accelerated to ramming speed and targeted the dreadnoughts. The battle turned into a knife fight at point-blank range. The Korvax had superior technology, but humans had desperation and fury. They had families to protect. They had 200 years of slavery to avenge. They had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Zelthax watched his fleet being torn apart and finally understood what he was facing. These weren't just soldiers. Every human was a soldier. Every ship was a weapon. Every sacrifice bought time for others to strike. They fought with a unity and determination he had never witnessed. All ships withdraw, he ordered. Retreat to minimum safe distance. We need to reevaluate our approach. His tactical officer stared at him. Sir, we're retreating? We're withdrawing before they destroy my entire fleet. Zelthax watched another dreadnought take critical damage. These humans would rather die than surrender. If we stay, they'll kill us all and smile while doing it. The Korvax fleet pulled back. The Battle of Earth was over. Humanity had lost 80% of their ships. The planet's surface was scarred with orbital bombardment. The moon cities had been damaged. Millions were dead or injured, but Earth still stood. The Korvax had retreated. For the first time in 3,000 years of expansion, the Empire had been forced to withdraw from a battle. Sarah floated in her escape pod, watching the Korvax ships disappear into faster-than-light travel. Around her, thousands of other pods drifted in the debris field. Rescue ships were already launching from Earth to collect survivors. Her comm crackled. All human forces, this is Admiral Rivera. We've won. Earth is safe. We've shown them they can't destroy us without destroying themselves. Hold on, everyone. Help is coming. We're going to survive this. We're going to be free. Sarah closed her eyes and let the exhaustion take her. They had survived. Against impossible odds with inferior weapons, facing the might of an empire, humanity had survived. It was enough. For now, it was enough. The Grand Assembly of Korvax's Prime met in emergency session. For the first time in centuries, fear crept into the chamber. Not fear of defeat, they told themselves, but fear of what victory would cost. We have lost 147 ships, Counselor Tharvix announced. 12 forward bases have been destroyed or abandoned. 3 subject species have begun their own rebellions inspired by human resistance. The Empire is fracturing. High Commander Zelthax stood before them, his skin showing patterns of grim determination. The humans have revealed another capability. Intelligence reports indicate they've developed weapons that can destabilize our quantum cores. If this technology spreads to other species, our entire fleet becomes vulnerable. Then we must destroy them completely. Another counselor insisted. Deploy everything. End this rebellion before it spreads further. I recommend negotiation, Zelthax said quietly. The chamber erupted in protests. Tharvix's mandibles clacked in fury. Negotiation? With slaves? With primitives who should be grateful we let them live. They're not acting like slaves anymore. Zelthax displayed footage from the Battle of Earth. Watch this. This is a human mining ship. It was crippled, life support failing, crew dying. They had escape pods. They could have fled. Instead, they aimed their ship at one of our dreadnoughts and accelerated to maximum speed. 10,000 tons of metal and ice traveling at 0.3 light speed. The impact destroyed a vessel that had survived 3 major wars. The council watched in silence. That's one example. Zelthax continued. We have hundreds more. Humans who sacrificed themselves to damage our ships. Pilots who rammed our vessels. Colonies that fought to the last person. This isn't normal military resistance. This is something else. This is a species that has collectively decided death is preferable to submission. So we give them death, Tharvik said coldly. At what cost? Zeltax brought up economic projections. We've spent more resources fighting humans in 3 months than we've extracted from them in 2 centuries. If we commit to total extermination, it will require diverting our entire military force. That means pulling ships from other territories. That means leaving our own systems vulnerable, and the humans have made it clear. If we destroy Earth, they will ensure our homeworld suffers the same fate. Empty threat. They don't have the capability to attack Korvax's prime, don't they? Zeltax showed intelligence reports. They've been reverse engineering our technology for decades. They have ships that can reach our borders, and they've demonstrated they're willing to use suicide tactics. One ship with a quantum bomb could kill billions on our homeworld. Can we guarantee they don't have that capability? Can we risk our entire civilization on that assumption? The council fell silent. The unthinkable was being spoken aloud. The mighty Korvax Empire was afraid of losing. On Earth? In the rebuilt Emergency Command Center, Admiral Rivera met with leaders from all 12 human colonies via holographic link. Sarah was there, promoted to fleet captain after her actions at the Battle of Earth. Governor Marcus Rivera of New Hebrides, no longer just a colonial administrator but a symbol of resistance. Dr. James Park, the scientist who had developed the quantum disruption technology, and dozens of others, military and civilian leaders who had guided humanity through the darkest days. The intelligence reports are confirmed, Dr. Park said. The Korvax are debating among themselves. Some want to destroy us completely. Others want to negotiate. We've hurt them badly enough that they're reconsidering the cost of victory. Can we trust them if they offer terms? Governor Rivera asked. No, Admiral Rivera said flatly. But we can't sustain this war much longer either. We've lost 60% of our military capability. Our colonies are damaged. We're running out of resources and people. If the Korvax come at us with everything they have, we'll lose, Sarah spoke up. But they'll lose too. That's what we've shown them. Victory over humanity will cost the Korvax Empire more than we're worth. We've changed the calculation. Exactly. The Admiral nodded. Which brings us to our next move. We can't win a war of extermination, but we can make them regret starting one. Dr. Park, explain Operation Prometheus. The scientist brought up tactical displays. We've identified 17 key Korvax industrial worlds. These planets produce the resources that keep their empire running. If we strike all of them simultaneously, we can cripple their ability to wage war for years. That would require every ship we have left, Governor Rivera said. And we'd be attacking deep in their territory. It's suicide. Maybe, Sarah said. Or maybe it's checkmate. If we can prove we can strike their industrial base, they'll have to negotiate. The alternative is mutual destruction. The debate went on for hours. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would launch one final offensive. They would show the Korvax that continued war meant the collapse of their empire. It was a desperate gamble, but desperation had served humanity well so far. 3 weeks later, the human fleet split into 17 task forces. Each group consisted of whatever ships could be spared for the mission. Most were barely functional, patched together with salvaged parts and hope. The crews were exhausted, having fought continuously for 4 months. But they were ready. Sarah commanded Task Force 7, targeting the industrial world of Korvax 17. Her fleet consisted of 9 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels. Against a defended Korvax planet, they should have been annihilated in minutes. But the humans had learned new tricks. They arrived in-system broadcasting Korvax military codes they had captured weeks ago. They masked their ship signatures to look like Korvax supply vessels. They used quantum stealth technology to hide their weapons until the last moment. By the time the Korvax defenders realized they were under attack, the humans were already in orbit, raining destruction on manufacturing facilities. Sarah's ship, the New Dawn, targeted fusion reactors and communication hubs. They weren't trying to kill civilians. They were trying to cripple industry. Every factory they destroyed was a setback for the Korvax war machine. Every power plant they knocked offline was one less resource for their military. Multiple enemy ships incoming. Her tactical officer shouted. We need to withdraw. Not yet. Sarah watched the targeting display. 2 more facilities. 90 seconds. Her ship shook as Korvax weapons found their range. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4, shields failing, but they had come this far. They would complete the mission. The last two targets were destroyed. "All ships execute withdrawal," Sarah ordered. "Get us out of here!" The New Dawn limped away from Korvax 17, trailing atmosphere and debris. 4 of her 9 ships made it out of the system. The others had sacrificed themselves to buy time for the rest to escape. Across Korvax space, similar scenes played out. Task forces struck fast and hard, causing maximum damage before retreating. Not all of them made it. Task Force 12 was completely destroyed. Task Force 4 lost 6 of 7 ships, but every one of them accomplished their mission. Operation Prometheus succeeded. 17 industrial worlds were crippled. The Korvax military supply chain was devastated. Repairs would take years and cost more resources than subjugating humanity could ever provide. On Korvaxis Prime, Zelthax delivered his final report to the Grand Assembly. "The humans have demonstrated they can strike anywhere in our territory. They've destroyed facilities that took centuries to build. If we continue this war, they will keep striking until our economy collapses. We face a choice: negotiate with the humans or risk the fall of our entire civilization." Tharvix, who had argued for total war, finally accepted reality. What are their terms? Complete independence for all human colonies, return of all captives taken over the past 200 years, and transformation of the empire from a subjugation state to a federation of equals. They want to destroy everything we've built. No, Zelthax corrected. They want to transform it. And I believe we should accept, because the alternative is mutual annihilation. The humans have proven they'll burn down the galaxy before they accept slavery again. The vote took hours. Fierce debates raged. But in the end, survival won over pride. The Korvax Empire sent a message to Earth. They were ready to negotiate. Sarah received the news while the New Dawn was being repaired at a hidden shipyard. She found a quiet corner of the ship and cried. Not from joy exactly. Too many had died. Too much had been destroyed. But they had done it. Humanity had stood against an empire and forced them to the negotiating table. Emma's message arrived a few minutes later, transmitted from New Hebrides. The girl's face appeared on the screen, smiling. "Aunt Sarah, Mom says the war might be ending. Does that mean you're coming home?" Sarah smiled through her tears. "Yes, baby. I'm coming home. We all are. The negotiations would be difficult. Trust would take years to build. But for the first time in 200 years, humans could imagine a future where they were free. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything they had fought for. The negotiation chamber on Neutral Station Kepler 9 was designed to accommodate multiple species. Korvax delegates sat on one side, their skin patterns carefully controlled to show diplomatic calm. On the other side, human representatives prepared for the most important discussion in their species' history. Admiral Rivera led the human delegation. Sarah was there as military advisor. Governor Marcus Rivera represented colonial interests. Dr. Park would speak on technology sharing. 20 others rounded out the team, each one chosen for their expertise and their unshakable will. High Commander Zelthax led the Korvax delegation. He had requested the assignment personally. If peace was to be made, it should be made by those who understood the cost of war. "Let us begin," Zelthax said, his translator rendering his clicks and hisses into human language. "The Korvax Empire is prepared to discuss terms of peace." "The Korvax Empire?" Admiral Rivera raised an eyebrow. "That's your first mistake. We're not here to discuss peace with an empire. We're here to discuss the future of a galaxy where everyone is free." Zelthax's skin flickered with irritation, but he controlled it. "Very well. What are humanity's demands?" "Complete independence for all human colonies. Immediate and unconditional." Agreed. The humans hadn't expected such quick acceptance. Sarah leaned forward. "Just like that? After 200 years of slavery and 4 months of war, you just agree?" "We are practical beings, Captain Chen. Continued conflict serves neither side. Independence is acceptable." Admiral Rivera continued. "All human captives taken during the occupation will be returned. Every child, every test subject, every person taken from our worlds. We want them back." Zelthax hesitated. "That may be complicated. Some subjects did not survive the genetic improvement programs." The temperature in the room dropped. Sarah's hand moved unconsciously toward where her sidearm would be if weapons were allowed in the chamber. How many? Governor Rivera asked quietly. Approximately 3,000 individuals across 2 centuries. The procedures were experimental. We did not yet understand human physiology. Many subjects experienced fatal complications. You killed 3,000 of our people. Sarah's voice was ice. We conducted research that sometimes resulted in death, yes. We did not consider it killing at the time. You were subjects, not people, in our legal framework. Zelthax paused. I recognize now that this was wrong. We have been wrong about many things concerning humanity. Admiral Rivera took a deep breath. Every surviving captive will be returned. You will provide full medical records for all subjects, living and dead. You will provide DNA samples so families can identify remains, and you will formally acknowledge that these were crimes against sentient beings. Agreed. The negotiations continued for days. Reparations were discussed. Technology sharing, territorial boundaries. Each point was argued, debated, and slowly resolved. But the hardest discussion came when Admiral Rivera introduced humanity's final demand. The Empire as it exists must end, he said. Not just for humans, but for all species under Korvac's control. Zelthax's skin patterns showed genuine shock. You're demanding we free all 47 systems? That we dismantle 3,000 years of expansion? Yes. That's impossible. The Empire is our entire civilization. Then your civilization needs to change. Sarah pulled up data showing the other rebellions. Since we started fighting back, 3 other species have begun their own resistance movements. The Vrillax, the Thanari, and the Korthi. They've been watching us. They've learned that the Empire can be resisted. If you don't transform willingly, you'll be forced to transform through constant warfare. Governor Rivera added, We're offering you a path forward. Transform the Empire into a federation. Equal representation for all species. Shared governance. Mutual defense treaties. It can work, but only if everyone has a voice. And if we refuse? Zelthax asked. Then we continue the war. Admiral Rivera said flatly. We'll support the other rebellions. We'll share our technology with them. We'll teach them what we've learned about fighting you. The Empire will fracture system by system until it collapses completely. Or you can choose transformation now, on your terms, and build something better. Zelthax was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. I need to consult with the Grand Assembly. This decision is beyond my authority. The negotiations paused for 3 days while the Korvacs debated. Sarah used the time to visit the medical facility where recovered captives were being examined. She found Emma's lost friend there, a girl named Maya who had been taken 5 years ago. The child was thin, scarred, and terrified, but alive. Is the war over? Maya whispered. Can I go home? Sarah knelt beside her bed. Soon. Very soon. We're making sure it's safe for everyone to go home. My mom and dad, are they okay? They're fine. They're waiting for you on New Hebrides. They never stopped looking for you. Maya started crying. Sarah held her hand until the doctors came to continue the examination. Walking back through the facility, Sarah saw hundreds of other captives. Children who had been taken years ago. Adults who had been experimented on. All of them damaged by the Empire's casual cruelty. This was why they had fought. Not for pride or revenge, but for these people. For the right to protect their own. For the simple dignity of saying no to those who would harm them. When negotiations resumed, Zelthax's skin patterns showed resignation. The Grand Assembly has voted. The transformation will proceed. The Korvax Empire will become the Galactic Federation. All member species will have equal representation. Military forces will be defensive only, with no offensive campaigns of expansion. Admiral Rivera nodded slowly. One more thing. The human colonies will maintain independent military forces. We will never again be defenseless. That was assumed. We would not dare demand disarmament after what you've shown us. Zelthax made a gesture that translated to bitter amusement. You've taught us an important lesson, Admiral. Some species cannot be conquered. They can only be befriended or destroyed. and destroying you would cost more than our civilization could survive. The treaty was signed 1 week later. Delegates from all 47 systems attended the ceremony. The Vrilax cheered when their freedom was announced. The Thanari wept. The Korthi performed traditional dances of celebration, and the humans simply stood together, holding each other, knowing they had won something precious. 10 years passed. Sarah stood in the same observation window where she had watched the sun set over New Hebrides a decade ago. The colony had been rebuilt, bigger and better than before. The wheat fields stretched to the horizon, golden and free. No quotas, no overseers. Just people working the land they loved. Emma graduated from the Colonial Academy that afternoon. She was 18 now, brilliant and fierce, planning to study xenobiology so she could help prevent the kind of medical atrocities that had harmed so many. She wore a small medal on her uniform, the Independent Star, given to all children whose names had been on the Decimation Protocol lottery. Aunt Sarah, Emma ran up and hugged her. Can you believe it? 10 years since the war ended. 10 years of peace, Sarah agreed. Hard-won peace. Do you think it'll last? Sarah looked up at the sky where Korvax and human ships now patrolled, together protecting the Federation from external threats. I think it'll last as long as everyone remembers the cost of war, as long as no one forgets what happens when you push people too far. Emma nodded seriously. My generation won't forget. We're the ones who lived through it. We'll make sure our kids know the stories. The graduation ceremony began. Sarah watched Emma and hundreds of other young people receive their diplomas. A whole generation that would grow up free, that would never know the weight of chains, that would never bow to anyone. Governor Rivera, now Federation Senator Rivera, gave the commencement speech. He was old now, his hair white, but his voice was still strong. 10 years ago, we said enough was enough, he told the graduates. We decided that some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for. Freedom, dignity, the right to protect our children, and we learned something important. We learned that when humans stand together, when we refuse to accept the unacceptable, we are unstoppable. He paused, looking at the young faces before him. You are the children of revolution. You grew up in bunkers and shelters while your parents fought for your future. Now that future is yours to shape. Remember what we fought for. Remember what it cost. And never ever let anyone tell you that you have to accept oppression. Because history has shown us clearly, no empire endures when we say enough is enough. The graduates cheered. Parents cried. Sarah stood with her arm around Emma and felt something she had almost forgotten during the dark years. Hope for the future. That night, Sarah visited the memorial garden where names of those who died in the war were carved into stone. She found the marker for the crew of the Defiant Spirit, her first command. Good people who had sacrificed everything. We did it, she whispered to the names. We're free. Your children are free. Was it worth the cost? The stone didn't answer, but Sarah knew. Looking at Emma laughing with her friends, watching the colony thriving under open skies, seeing humans and Korvax working together instead of as master and slave, she knew. Yes, it had been worth it. The galaxy had learned a lesson written in fire and blood. Humanity could not be conquered. Not really.